This is Andrew Rochford, host of the Rochford Files, and it's time to get into some of the fallout that has happened with this Afghanistan withdrawal over the past uh, few days, week, with Joe Biden, and some of the fallout with this situation where this withdrawal, or what I like to refer this to, is a surrender, was always going to be kind of a rough transition since the United States had dug its heels in so deep into this attempted occupation, which they had really kicked up for over these past plus 20 years. And Joe Biden has been bipartisanly attacked for this decision by war pigs uh, among Democrats and Republicans on mainstream media all week. And I'm about to go over some numbers real quick, which will expose the negative and the impact that all this propaganda criticizing Biden's decision, which there are still troops there, for now at least, and what that is, the consequences of it has been early on since then. So, right here are some numbers to go over. The debacle in Afghanistan is also shaking Americans' feelings about pulling out of the country. Meanwhile, just 49% of Americans now support the withdrawal, according to a morning consult political poll taken over the weekend, compared to 69% in April. Support for pulling out fell along partisan lines, with 69% of Democrats and 31% of Republicans supported leave, but 38% of Democrats and 14% of Republicans said the evacuation is going well. According to a Reuters IPSOS survey, 75% supported the Biden administration's decision to send in more troops to secure the airport and other facilities until the withdrawal is complete. Asked whether they thought the war would end badly no matter what when the U.S. left, 68% said they would totally agree and 18% said they totally disagree. 47% of Americans said the Biden administration did a good job of managing its involvement in Afghanistan, compared to 51% who said the same about Trump and Obama administrations. The Biden administration just got a 44% good rating. That right there is the propaganda that takes place when it comes to this transitional withdrawal taking place right now by the United States. In fact, the effect of that propaganda has meant that Joe Biden's job approval rating plunged 7 percentage points. And the sad part about that is, among the other things that should have caused his approval rating to drop, such as not fighting for a $15 minimum wage, whether it abandoning the public option from his campaign platform, the lack of repeated payments of stimulus from the American Rescue Act, deciding to settle on only trying to cut half of child-related poverty instead of going all the way to 100%. Though that in the handling of the cage facilities at the border by overfilling those and deporting records amount of people and at a rate that would even allow Joe Biden to exceed the number of people deported to the Obama administration, and that also includes a lot of Haitians going through some rough times right now in their country. But no, among the things that would cause this problem, it is the fact that the military-industrial complex did not continue to see this war through. That's how ridiculous our society is, the United States is right now, is the fact that, and the propaganda causes the greatest level of outrage towards the action of transitioning out of war compared to not fighting for policies that help everyone on a class and racial equality level. Just know that that also includes acts of imperialism which the United States has carried out all over the world for as long as they're in inception, really. And the crazy part about this is a 20% drop in support back when it seemed like the Biden administration had a pretty set date on this, then made the decision against it and just decided to add more troops to make a last second ditch effort to try to prevent the Taliban from taking over. Even though the Afghanistan papers show that even if they decided to get out back in 2002, 2003, 2004, or even 10, 15, 20 years later than we are now, that they were going to lose this battle to the Taliban either way. Therefore, what you're seeing right now in this transitionary process, which, by the way, don't assume or trust that this process is going to be completed until it's actually done. And that's one thing I notice that some of your top lefty reporters are talking about this as this is set in stone, finished, and don't assume that this is going to be completed or that the Biden administration may not decide to eventually change course, even in spite of the rhetoric which says that he's going to double down and not change his mind on it, even though there's evidence of Joe Biden having more rhetoric, stronger rhetoric on stuff like the $15 minimum wage, and we've seen where that has gone. And this is just propaganda at work, but I'm also not about giving over-deserved credit, because you have to keep in mind Joe Biden was one of the biggest supporters of this war in Afghanistan. So he shouldn't get the adulation of this because he was one of the ones most for it. But there's more to this. And Wikileaks has dropped some summaries on the ways that they get Americans to support this occupation, sanctions in other countries, in the good act of so-called democracy. And right here is a great example of it from Wikileaks. A CIA report: use feminism to reduce Western occupation to military opposition to military occupation of Afghanistan back in 2010. Let's get that on the screen real quick. And this got released March 26, 2010. The classified CIA analysis from March outlines possible PR strategies to shore up public support in Germany and France for a continued war in Afghanistan. After the Dutch government fell on the issue of Dutch troops in Afghanistan last month, the CIA became worried that similar events could happen in the countries that post the third and fourth largest troop contingents in the ISAF mission. The proposed PR strategies focus on pressure points that have been identified with these countries. For France, it is the sympathy of the public for Afghan refugees and women. For Germany, it is the fear of the consequences of defeat, drugs, more refugees, terrorism, as well as for Germany's standing in NATO. The memo is a recipe for the targeted manipulation of public opinion in 2 NATO allied countries, written by the CIA. It is classified as confidential, no foreign nationals. So that right there is another ploy that the CIA uses in order to get Americans to support this war, specifically against the brown and black countries which try to enact socialism, and therefore you fight in the act of democracy, translation which just means trying to force right-wing capitalist values on those countries such as Afghanistan. And what you noticed during this fallout was a progressive politician, Marianne Williamson, was strongly advocating for more troops to go to Afghanistan during that last-ditch effort before Biden decided to wave in the white towel, the white flag. And she fell for this idea of it fighting for feminism and liberation for the Afghanistan women, when in reality, the United States isn't exactly a beacon of feminism. And since then, Marianne Williamson did admit that she was wrong and that she fell for it. And this is just another tactic used to get people to support war, when in reality, it's just violence. It goes completely against anti-imperialist principles, specifically that of self-determination. And even though we know that President Biden doing this is not in the act of him trying to redeem himself, because with the left, the true left that is, there is no redemption arc. We know he is a big neocon war hawk, and at the end of the day, this outrage is pretty meaningless, except to point out how far of a disconnect that anti-imperialist on the left, and there's a small amount on the right as well, are from the mainstream propagandized people who continue to fall for CIA tactics time and time again, especially when you have CIA employees appear on networks like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all criticizing Joe Biden for this decision to back out, even though it was always going to be a messy exit. And at the end of the day, this just goes to show you that there's some dumb reasoning for Joe Biden to drop in support in polling when other reasons I've listed should be what really causes that.